Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to 5x3 Radio. We are here back from Texas. We've been back from Texas for a while. Rebecca's like, are we going to talk about Texas? I was like, I can say we went to Texas, which we did.
Barbecue. Got delicious barbecue.
We did have some pretty good barbecue. I tell you, that was probably the highlight of the trip.
Well, yeah, it was very nice barbecue.
I like the barbecue. I always enjoy, hanging out with you.
Yeah,
so that was fun.
We met some nice people.
I met some nice people. Yeah, I got to meet a couple of the coaches I haven't met before in person, and watch.
And we went to the slowest Starbucks ever.
Oh my god. That's Unfortunately, the young woman.
Emily, come on. It's a Starbucks and you guys are asking for tea.
Diego, we went to breakfast last week and he tried to get tea from a restaurant near us.
Did they know how to make it?
No.
Yeah.
No,
it's a lost art, Emily.
It's the lost art of tea. The lost art of tea. Poor Diego. Yeah, I was sitting in the car for like 15 minutes.
Which you wouldn't think because it was already in a tea bag. It's not even like it was loose leaf tea.
I don't want to judge people or talk poorly about people, but it's a tea bag. It's tea and hot water.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't seem that complex.
It's okay.
But
was your coffee good?
My coffee was good.
Okay.
It was delicious.
The coffee was good. So there was a plus side there.
Although I gotta say, I think the best coffee of the entire trip was the one I had in the airport. What did I get? I got like a cold brew. I got a cold brew.
Oh, the cold brew. Yeah, I was gonna say I like the coffee at the gym. Carmen makes good coffee.
Oh yeah, dang.
Carmen makes great coffee. So shout out to Carmen for the coffee at the seminar. I drank a lot of coffee. I almost had my knitting stolen from one of the dogs. From Chase's dog that was there. He thought it was his toy.
Yeah, although the best knitting story was knitting on the plane. What was it? You hit turbulence and your whole ball of yarn went all the way back down the aisle.
Down the aisle. And I thought to myself, oh my God, the stewardess is going to come out. She's going to trip over my yarn. She's going to go down the plane. And
flight crew's going to trip over it.
I was not supposed to get out of my seat. There was turbulence. And I finally retrieved my yarn. And it was all good. Everything is saved. So anyway, we're back.
You got to wash that scarf before you wear it. After everywhere that yarn's been
finished.
Dog's mouth.
I know, that's true.
Floor.
I haven't finished. I haven't
Don't
finished
wrap
it.
that thing around your neck.
So that was the beginning of June, and then we got back, and then we had the contest. The contest was great, the Charm City Strongwoman contest. Wonderful day, beautiful day. It actually turned out to be a better day than we expected because there was rain in the forecast, but it was cool. Everyone had a great time. We had a huge crowd, which was so interesting because we had the fewest number of women there that we'd had in a long time. For whatever reasons.
You mean fewest participants?
Participants, yeah, and I knew that was going to be the case since I switched the entire contest from September to June.
Right.
No, I just changed the month, so I knew that, and we had attrition as we always do because there's always injuries. But the crowd came out, like the people who were participating, they were happy to be there.
Yeah.
And they brought people out. So it was a really fun day. We hit our goal. We reached our $100,000 goal for the 5 years. So
that's awesome.
I'm floored that we did that in the middle of a pandemic too, because we started this in 2018. So then we managed to hit our goal. So thank you to everybody for the past 5 years who have donated and given their time, given their money, given sponsorships, bought T-shirts. It made a huge difference. So next year, we're fundraising to fundraise. There's no real goal. We're just going to keep trying to raise as much money as we can for Almond House to help them do the good deeds that they're doing by providing free housing for those young adults with cancer who are getting treatment at Hopkins. So we thank you. Thank you to everybody, all the listeners who have supported us and donated and bought T-shirts. Thank you so much. It was fantastic. We're going to wrap up our 4-part series here on the big 4 lifts. We've been kind of going over our setup, how we coach it, helpful cues that we like to give our clients. We've done the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. So of course we have to finish up with the press. And then Rebecca and I are off for the next month. So the month of July, there will be no 5x3 podcast. Sorry. We need a break. You need a break from listening to us. So we will be back in August. Not to worry. We will be back, but the month of July will be off. So let's get on to the press.
Moving right along.
Yeah, as we started with everything, we want to start with the setup. So when we have a new person and we're introducing them to the press, what's the first thing that you like to do with people? I can start with myself, but I want to hear from you. What do you how do you set people up for the press? Does it change each time, or do you have a pretty set pattern as to how you
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we're kind of covering these in a different order, because I guess normally
the press is after squat.
I teach squat and then press, because then you don't have to change the J cups around and everything's just faster. Then you can use the press grip sort of as reference for setting up your bench press grip. But essentially your grip is going to be about shoulder distance.
Right.
Shoulder. So like arms straight out, what's shoulder distance? I usually kind of judge that on a person's size. If they're about my size, I'll suggest, and I'm like, I think I'm 5'4", but I'm really 5 foot. and so, for me, I usually have
I'm surprised you think that. I thought you were taller than that.
No. I'm pretty sure I'd settled on 5'4". I mean, most of the people that I'm like, oh, we're the same height, they're 5'4". But I usually will have like one finger, like index finger in the smooth, or spanning the very edge of the end of the knurl there. Yeah. So somebody who's bigger, taller, wider shoulders or something. Right. Give or take an inch or so there in terms of width.
I'd say for the women, it's typically going to be like kind of like a finger over. Right, you're right. Like the smooth, and the knurling meets itself. And for the guys, it's typically kind of right on the knurling, outside the smooth, maybe a little bit out from there, depending on the gentleman and how broad he is. Yeah. I remember I used to not have such a narrow grip. I mean, if I go back, I look at videos actually of myself pressing. I took a much wider grip back in the day, like more like the guy's grip, outside the shoulders, but not just outside the shoulders. And I've slowly over the years have narrowed the grip in.
Like what changed? Why?
I realized it was easier. It felt better, and the more I coached, and the better I got at myself as a lifter. And I think I just realized narrower is better. And obviously you don't want to go too narrow, but bringing that grip in, especially, when I have more slender women, some of my smaller ladies, I really need to take that grip in quite a bit for them, because if not, they can't get those elbows forward enough.
Yeah.
They lose.
I mean, that's what I was thinking too, because I just started a new client virtually this week, and usually I'll have a person that I'm starting virtually set up a phone and an iPad, so I can see everything from at least 2 views. But with all, she had some really unusual equipment. It was not a normal squat rack, and so the camera thing wasn't ideal. And I only had the direct side angle, setting her up for the overhead. And I'm trying to explain to her, elbows squeezed together forward slightly ahead of the bar. And she's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, just the direct side angle. And I was like, then your grip's too wide. And she really was. She was like way out here, but I didn't have that direct angle camera, but it was just, you just knew, because the elbows couldn't get where they needed to. I was like, then your grip is wrong. And so she took her grip in where I, as we just described that width. And then all of a sudden there were her elbows in the proper position. She was like, oh, what do you know?
Yeah. We want our elbows forward. We want our elbows forward. We want to see a 90-degree angle, right, with the forearm. So if you are having trouble with your press and you're finding that you're having a difficult time keeping those elbows forward, it might be that your grip is too wide. So you want to bring it in, especially for the guys. It's usually just outside that smooth part of the bar. For the ladies, it might be a finger over, depending on the bar you're using.
It's almost like your fist is like lined up, like just ahead of your armpit a little bit.
Yeah, you'll know if you're too narrow because all of a sudden your elbows are sticking out to the side. They're kind of chicken winging, and you can't get them in. Then you're way too narrow.
Yeah.
I know with my online clients as I'm coaching them, if I haven't done like an online a Zoom session with them, I'll certainly send videos showing them where that grip should be, and then comparing to a comparison of like, this is what your grip looks like, this is what the grip should look like, and make your grip look like that grip's like. In person, you can just grab it. The person can.
Strong lifts. Medi's strong lifts. He's got a series of good images that sort of show like, not this, but this. Red X, green check.
Yes.
And so he's got a good one that shows like elbow position for overhead press.
Nice.
So we did, we just talked about grip width.
Yep.
And then we kind of jumped ahead to elbows just because they're connected, right?
Sure.
It's one side of the bone, the other side of the bone.
Let's go back.
But so back up because there's a little bit more about grip.
Right.
So go ahead. What else about grip?
So what else about grip? We want to put the bar. So make sure that when you set the grip up that you're putting the bar in the low part of the hand. And it's hard for, obviously, Rebecca can see my hand. You can't see my hand. But, the crease of the thumb, the low part of the hand is kind of down where the meaty part of your palm is. That's where we want the bar to sit. You don't want it sitting up high in the fingertips.
Not up in the fingers.
Right.
Like I guess people say like follow like along the lifeline or whatever, that sort of thing.
An easy way to find that is I like to kind of spread my thumb and slide my hand up until that bar sits kind of like nice and tight in the thumb, and then you're going to rotate in towards in the middle of the bar, and then take a nice full grip with the thumb around, so that the bar should sit nice and tight right in the palm of that hand, as opposed to just kind of grabbing it straight on, which then you risk the wrist kind of flopping around.
Yeah.
Now, you might be able to grab it and put it in a good place, but most people, I find that the minute I have them rotate and remind them to rotate and then grab, they remember, oh yeah, that's right, and they feel how the bar just kind of sits there in that palm.
Well, and like I've also heard like the setup cue about like basically you chicken wing it when you get the bar set up in your hand. But I mean, like I've had people get confused by that too. But like basically when you get set up and you've got your arms straight out ahead of you and you figure out your grip width because it's thumb sort of straight ahead of your shoulder.
Right.
Then I'll say walk straight up to the bar. So the bar is up to your chest. Now chicken wing it. So the bar goes in low in your palm, elbows a little bit above the bar, and roll under. Yep. Which confuses the heck out of a lot of people.
And Rebecca teaches it because that's how we teach it. Rebecca worked with us. But yeah, exactly. I had them come up to the bar. They come to the bar on the chest. Exactly. Rotate the elbows up so you have a nice neutral wrist. Now, the hardest part is getting those elbows forward without rolling the wrist around and moving the bar. So that is like the trickiest part. How to get people
how many people can't move the wrist and the elbow independent of each other?
It's roll the bar, don't roll your wrist. I'll say that. Roll the bar, don't roll your wrist. Rotate in the shoulder. I've gotten better, I think, about just saying to people, bring your elbows forward, and they usually just bring their elbows forward, and and then we'll just we'll fix the wrist position as needed. That's a tricky one, trying to get people to keep that wrist somewhat neutral. Right, there's going to be very slight extension. You don't want like the bar hanging back in the hands and your wrist completely bent back. That's why trying to get people to put that bar in that low part will help that wrist kind of not, roll around as much.
It's like as far as the wrist goes, it's the same with bench, right? So it's like if it's not the person gripping the bar hard. If a person makes a fist, their wrist will go into a pretty flat, neutral position. It's impossible to make a fist with your wrist bent back if you're really gripping.
Exactly.
So if they grip the bar hard, it kind of self-corrects. But press Press is one of the lifts that I really do find is so much more efficient to teach in person, because this whole elbow wrist position thing that seems to elude people, like however many words I can throw at them, however slowly I can give the explanation, however small I can break the pieces down into, I can always fix it faster and easier if I just say, never mind, I'll fix it after you unrack it. They unrack it. I just walk up behind them and basically with my own forearms, brace their, arms so that their elbows are pushed forward. I use my elbows to push theirs forward and use my thumbs to straighten their wrists out. And they're like, oh, that's what I'm talking about.
I know it takes a lot more videos online.
It's just so much faster.
A lot of video comparisons. Not this way, not like that, like this. And then watch me get into position. Watch me get into position. Yeah, in person with the press is always going to be easier.
So much faster.
Yeah, so much faster. And it really is figuring out, helping the person understand how they're holding the bar with their hands. And then once they get the bar out of the rack, so let's say, okay, so we've got the hand position, we've got the elbows forward, the bar, they're still not out of the rack yet. I'll tell people, elbows forward, bend your knees, elbows forward. So you're going to squat down, all right? You're going to squat because you're going to squat the bar out of the rack. What does that mean? The bar and you come out together, right? When you stand up, that's when the bar comes out of the rack. You're not standing up and then picking the bar out of the rack.
Yeah.
The bar's coming out of the rack with you.
Yeah. So it's like making the distinction for them that they're getting the bar out of the rack using their legs, not using their arms.
Exactly.
Like you get yourself set up, you get yourself tight while the rack is still holding the weight of the bar for you. And then everything's tight. Nothing there changes. It's just all legs at the beginning. It's like squat it up, step it back. And then
that will come for people. Cause in the beginning, people are going to, they'll do that. They'll bend the knees, they'll get under the bar,
and then they'll still pick it up with their arms.
They'll still pick it up with their arms, or they'll stand up, but the bar will drop. The bar will kind of drop down onto their chest. And you have to remind them, elbows forward. And when the minute you say elbows forward, the bar rises up. And I'll say, good, try to keep the bar right under the chin. Now, what I'll also do is once they come out with that, I'll put my hands right on their knuckles and I'll push the bar down. I'll say, don't let me push the bar down. And as I'm pushing, they're trying to push up. I'm like, that's what I want. That's how I want you to hold the bar. Now that happens like there. And then of course the bar just, drops because the elbows drop. So learning over time, learning that the back is holding the bar, is supporting the bar. The bar is just not sitting in your hands. If the bar is sitting in your hands, you'll notice your shoulders droop, the bar droops, the elbows droop. But if you use your back, if the elbows come forward, what happens? What's going on in your back? Well, your back is engaging and your lats are engaging to keep those elbows forward. I can't have my elbows forward and let the bar kind of slump onto my chest. It's impossible, right? Immediately the chest comes up, the bar comes up, and your back is now working twice as hard to hold the bar. It goes along with all the other lifts. Bench,
and I think that's
deadlift, squat. The back is important in this lift, obviously.
I think like for a lot of people who are just getting started with barbell stuff, the idea that the start-stop position is work is like a revelation.
Yes.
It's like, I'm here holding the bar. I haven't done the lift. I haven't done the rep. So I'm just like relaxing here. No, you're not.
No, exactly.
If you're comfortable, if you're not working, if this doesn't feel difficult, just holding the bar, then it's not correct. Right. There's effort involved in being in that properly tight start-stop position. Same thing as like with deadlift, right? Like if you've done your step 4, you squeezed your chest through, you've gotten all the slack out of the bar. I mean, like we were talking about Diego's demonstration of that. He gets all red-faced, just like hanging out down there. Like, this is tight.
It's part of posture. I mean, it's part of in our day and time now, what do we do so much? We sit at desks. We drive in the car. We're on the phone. We're texting. We're constantly got the shoulders up in our ears and kind of hunched over. So this idea of all of a sudden you're expecting me to hold something in my hand and my back has to do people go right to what's comfortable, which is elbows dropped, shoulders dropped. So making them work, their back is working. And until that back gets stronger.
About this? They call that shrimp back.
Shrimp
I've
back.
seen that. It's called shrimp back.
I don't know that term.
Yeah, because I'm always like, slumped over your computer or your steering wheel or whatever.
Yeah.
And the term I've come across is shrimp back.
Shrimp back. Okay.
What it looks
Yeah.
like.
That's why the constant reminder of that when I tell people, remember, you're supporting the bar with your back. Your back is working. The bar is in front of you. You see the bar, but the work's happening behind you in order for that bar to to be held. And when people, as they start to practice with that more and more, and that's where, and this is a side, I'm going to jump a little ahead, that's where the strict press that I like to teach eventually comes in with some of my clients earlier on. I'll just kind of do away with like the press with the hips, and we haven't gotten to that yet, and make them just learn how to hold that bar.
Yeah.
And once they learn how to hold that bar, then it becomes easier for them to, utilize everything else. So that's something that's going to be constantly reinforced, which is back supports the bar. Back supports the bar. The elbows are forward, so that every time I say elbows forward, the bar lifts up. They are starting to feel their back engage every single time.
Yeah.
It
I
starts
guess,
to,
like the cue sometimes, I guess it's, you were going to mention the article that Diego had written, but the cue that's in there is like chest up or chest to the ceiling. Your chest is up to the ceiling. But the idea that chest isn't necessarily picking itself up, it's being pushed from the muscles on the back. It's like the muscles on the back side pushing the chest up towards the ceiling. It's similar to like when you're on the bench and you're thinking about there's attack on the bench.
Yes.
Behind my shoulder blades that I'm picking my back up off of. Same kind of concept.
A big cue I give
Superman chest.
And to my ladies. I give this to my ladies more so. I said, think of a bodybuilding chest. And I'll do like the whole thing, and I'll do the bicep, tricep, show I'll say, I said, you need a big bodybuilding chest. I said, we don't have that. The guys had that. You need to create a bodybuilding chest. You need to like push your chest out, push your boobs out, like really. And when they think about that helps them understand how I need to hold this bar better, right? We do that in the bench, but we forget about that when it comes to the press. So we've got the hand placement, we've got the elbow placement. The bar sits under the chin as close to us as possible. Sometimes I'll tell people, get it on your neck, like have it touching your neck.
But the placement, like you were saying before,
yes, depends. It's going to depend. It's going to depend. Yeah. Right. That's right. So some people, the bar may sit and float over the shoulders. For some people, the bar may actually end up above the chin. Really short forearms. Bar can't sit down here, can't float. And for some people, it's going to sit on the shoulders. Like they can't actually get it off the shoulders without shrugging, right? I haven't had too many people like that. I haven't had too many people who the bar can't float off the shoulders. I've had a couple people where the bar sits above the chin. They're very rare. Most people, though, the bar can easily float off the shoulders and sit under the chin, which is good because then the bar has a place to move to, right? It can go down. It can go down to go up as we get ahead into actually pressing. So there's your position. Elbows are forward. Jay likes to tell people, and I don't know if he uses this cue or not, but paper in the armpit.
Yeah.
So trying to keep something tight in your armpit.
Tight armpit. Yeah.
Right, trying to keep a tight armpit, and when people do that, when the elbows stick out, I'll have people say, okay, put your elbows out. Now, bring your elbows in. Do you feel what happens with your lat? And they can feel their lat kind of tighten up. Like that's a feeling you want to have. You want to feel that like there's tension back there. All of a sudden, something engages, something gets kind of hard. That's your muscle, right? That's kind of because if you swing out, it's kind of loose.
Yeah. So just because we're like audio and not visual,
sure,
right? We're talking about elbows position,
right,
both fore, aft, and also laterally, degree from the side, right? So, it's not, it's not winging out,
Nope. It's close
pretty
and tough.
tight to the torso.
Yes.
But also just tip of the elbow, just slightly ahead of the bar if you're looking at the person from a direct side angle.
Right. And
so there's like a forward, backward, as well as an in, out.
And I'll tell people when we get, to continue to think about exaggerating that elbow position forward a little bit, right? So if you can look down, and I've got tattoos on the inside of both of my arms. So if I glance at my forearms, I can see the inside of my arms. I can see the tattoos. if my elbows are down by my side and not forward, I glance, I can see I have to really look to see my tattoos, because now the elbows are kind of dipping below. So Diego and I actually will tell people to exaggerate the elbow forward a little bit more, and eventually they end up kind of in that right spot.
So I mean, like, I guess that cue is going to be somewhat dependent on the individual, because I have also had a lot of people. The other thing is you need to learn how to find that position just through the way your body feels. Like when you're doing this right now and I can see you, it's like your head is staying upright and you're looking out of the very bottom corner of the eye, right? Like what you are not telling people to do, what you don't want people to do, is to look with their eyes, like lower their head, because I have people who do that. Like online people that I'm like trying to break this habit, right? Where it's like they step back out of the rack and they're looking to see if their feet are still attached to their legs. They're trying to see if their elbows are still attached to their arms. Like they're looking all over the place, and any semblance of the Superman chest or, holding the bar up with their back, like all just collapses, right? Their elbows go into the, rear space behind them. The bar tips over.
I expect all that. I definitely expect all that. And I let that go for a couple reps as the person's learning it.
Okay. So it's not the very first thing you pick. But you don't want to let it go on for too long.
Yeah. So Rebecca's getting she's getting into a good place. She's jumping. You're jumping ahead. You're like me. You're jumping ahead. So you've got let's say they've got the placement. They've got the bar. They've squatted out of the rack. The bar is in a good place. Then they step back. So as Rebecca's saying, many people will step back out of the rack and they're taking 5-6 steps. They're looking around. They're looking at their hands. They're checking their feet. They're taking like 10 minutes to get set up. Okay. Now they're probably holding a 15-pound bar in their hand at this point.
Right.
It's not that heavy.
You can get away with it.
So let's say, I'm watching that and I'm fixing things. And then eventually I'll say to them, okay, watch me. Here's A, here's B. And I'll take the position and I'll do them. Looking around, looking up, and right away they know exactly where I'm going with this. Like they automatically see. And then I go, here's B. And I take the bar out of the rack. My eyes are forward and up. And I'm going to talk about that, eye gaze. I walk back 2 steps. I stand I get in my squat stance, because we want a wide stance. We haven't talked about stance, but I get into my squat stance. I just say a wide stance and I start to press. And they're like, okay, B. I was like, yeah, by the time you have gotten into position, I've already done my set. That set is done. It's gone.
Right. And so like when they're doing that with their 15-pound bar, not a big deal. But when you get to the point where your overhead press is heavy for you, you need to be efficient.
So as you
all
said,
the extra time you wait futzing around with your feet, trying to find your stance, that's all sucking energy.
So as Rebecca said, you need to figure out, you need to feel for your own body what that feels like, right? You don't need a mirror to tell you. I had someone ask me about a mirror. I wish I had a mirror to practice. I'm like, no, you don't need a mirror to practice. You need to be kinesthetically aware. And your coach, whether online or in person, is your mirror. Should be explaining to you what you should get you into position, should move you into position, move the elbows into position, move the bar into position, push down if I need to, open your legs, do this. So once you get more and more confident, just like with the squat, with the bench, with the deadlift setup, you practice that setup every single time the same exact way, right? Mm-hmm. So you walk back, you stand up at the bar. The whole reason of squatting out of the rack is to make sure that everything's tight, ready to go, and your elbow's in the right place, your eye gaze is in the right place. You just have to walk back. Nothing changes, nothing moves. You don't need to look at your feet because you've practiced this over and over again. In the beginning, you might do that. We're going to let that go. Eventually, we're going to try to rein that in. Don't look at your feet. Don't look anywhere except, the spot that you've chosen to look at on the wall in front of you. So
you're mentioning feet and you're mentioning squat stance. Yes. Go ahead and explain, why do we take a wide stance?
Well, we want a wide base. We want a wide base, right? We want a strong base to work from. If I have a very narrow base, I'm not going to be able to get as much power from those legs as I can with a wider stance. Even in a strict press, I can't really press well with a narrow stance. I just can't engage my legs as easily. A wider base gives you a much more powerful base to push from, because the press, I'll remind people, the press, the kinetic chain starts from the feet, right, from the heels, and goes all the way up to the top of that bar once you finish pressing. The bench kind of gets stuck, right? The kinetic chain kind of gets interrupted by that arc that we make. So we still want to think about the feet and the bench, and the legs are important. They're even more important in the press. So you watch people take a very narrow stance, and you see them trying to get tight with the legs. The knees always seem to bend. There's always going to be some knee kick, or if there isn't, they're going to be loose down there. So wider stance. We say squat stance because that's pretty, everybody knows what their squat stance is.
Yeah.
Some people will take an even wider stance. I don't care. I'm fine with that as long as it works for them. As long as it works for them. Yeah.
And then, I think also with the toes out, like the squat stance, it makes it a little bit harder for a person to bend their knees, a little bit less comfortable, right? So we're trying to do, not a push press. We're not trying to initiate with some leg bend or knee bend or whatever.
Right.
But,
so you're going to take your squat stance. You're going to take a wide stance, and eye gaze. People might say look forward. I actually tell people look up. Look forward and up. Look as far up as you need to, not to the ceiling. Of
with
course,
your eyes,
with your eyes,
with your head, right?
With your head. I mean,
Well, doesn't that stick your chin out in the way?
I want that. I want the chin. I want the chin. I want the whole, because what that's going to do is elevate your chest. And then once you start once you start to move those hips forward, your whole trunk, your whole body will move back out of that bar's way. I don't want that bar interfering with that head at all, right? Because if my chin is not up, I'm going to get bobblehead. I'm going to get bobblehead when I start to press that bar. If I'm nervous that bar is not going to go up, right? I'm going to try and sneak under that bar as soon as I can. So if I tell people eye gaze up, forward and up, that keeps the chest elevated. That keeps those elbows forward better. That keeps the bar closer to you. It just is it's an easier bar path. It's an easier way to keep the bar path for the person.
I would also just add too, as far as eye gaze and up a little bit, depending on your training situation, that can be really helpful. If you are training in like a not a strength gym, Globo gym that's got mirrors. And you've got, like, a lot of times they'll have a mirror right in front of the squat rack. If you're staring straight ahead, it's super distracting to see like the god awful faces that you're making while you're doing your overhead press. Absolutely. If you look above that, you're not distracted by your own face, but you're also not distracted by people moving behind, like in that you see reflected in the mirror. So finding something up above. I mean, obviously I've had to train in situations where there's gyms with mirrors and I figure these tricks out, like where to position your eye gaze so that you're not distracted by the reflections of the people walking behind you, which is also, if you're doing a meet, very helpful too, because then you're looking above the heads of the people in the crowd, right? Which can be distracting or nerve-wracking or whatever, depending on your anxiety levels.
I look down when I grab that bar, and the minute those elbows come forward, my eye gaze goes up and
up to the ceiling.
Up to the ceiling. Diego has given cues to people, and it's kind of rare, but we will tell people, for some individuals, watch the bar, follow the bar, keep your eyes on the bar. So when they're pressing, they're looking literally at the bar as the bar is going behind them, because they refuse to keep their head in position, right? So for some people, they have to literally watch that bar. Sometimes people will go overboard and they'll start to look at the ceiling. I'm like, okay, we're not looking that high. Keep your eyes down. But I do notice that if people are looking straight ahead, they're going to have a more difficult time keeping that bar in the bar path, which is back, right? I'll cue the bar back, not up. The bar goes up, like in the bench, the bar goes away from you. Because remember, we haven't gotten to this part yet, and we're kind of skipping around. I know we kind of feel like we jumped around, but we're going to utilize our hips in the press that we teach. We want to use the legs. We want to use some power from the legs. So we're going to move ourselves out of the way of the bar, which does change the trajectory of the bar, right? The bar is not going to go up. If it goes up, it's going to go right through our head, through our chin. So we have to move out of the position. We have to get out of the bar's way. So what do? We move our hips forward. Now, are we really just moving our hips, or are we moving our whole body forward? And this is where things get tricky in trying to teach that press to people. I know I have a good cue that I give to people. What are some cues that you give to people when you're teaching them the press? We can say, we drop the bar, we put the hands on the hips, and we do the whole press thing. Let's say we're beyond that. How do you help people understand that hip movement in the press when they have started pressing? Because most people listening to this have been pressing. They've kind of learned the press. They might be confused though with, well, what do you mean when you say hips forward? What's actually happening in my body?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, Emily, it's like kind of since COVID, a lot of the people that I've taught press to have been virtual.
Yeah.
And I actually wait. Some people I don't even teach them the
Sure.
2.0,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Right. So like the 2.0, the Olympic press, the one with the hip bounce. And it's because like I'm starting them out and I've spent some time teaching them the start stop position. I've spent some time teaching them the overhead position.
Right.
And so for the first couple of weeks, it's, while it's lighter, it's really just drilling in consistently, finding each of those positions while they're moving the bar from start stop to the overhead position. And I really just kind of say, like, get the bar overhead, get your face out of the way.
Yes.
Get the bar overhead. But when you're teaching somebody about the hip bounce or you're describing it, and I know what you're talking about. Somebody who hasn't gone through the teaching progression with an SSC might not understand what you're talking about with hands on the hips or whatever. But if you've read the Starting Strength books and you have in mind the images of those stick figures, I always think that's really helpful.
Yes.
Like your upper body, you want to conceptualize as being one segment from the top of your head down to your hips. Your hips are the pivot point. So when you're getting the bar over your head, when you're making up that lateral distance from the start stop position to the finish position, right? What is that? It has to move backwards behind you about 4 inches from its start stop position to get to, or from that start position to get to the overhead press position.
Right.
You want to get your head out of the way by pivoting from your hips. You're not just doing that like what is that, like walk like an Egyptian?
Walk like an Egyptian. Right.
So it's like you're moving from the pelvis. The hip goes forward, the head comes back because it's part of the same segment.
Right.
And so that's sort of where I start introducing that concept, even if I'm not having the person do the hip bounce or the Olympic press, having them conceptualize the idea of being one solid segment. If you're going to get your hips out of or your head out of the way, it's moving from the hips. It's kind of
Right. And I do the same thing sometimes in person too. I may not introduce that hip bounce.
And I think also in person, like it depends on the person. Like I have had people that I have worked with in person where there's a timing element to the overhead press. And there are some people who are just not natural movers.
Yes.
And rather than introduce, especially day 1, week 1, week 2, whatever, rather than introduce a whole other level of complexity to somebody who already just has trouble moving their body through space, I'd rather just have them feel successful and get stronger, as strong as they can doing a strict press.
Yes.
So
yes. And even with the strict press, as Rebecca's saying, the strict press, you still have to
get your face out of the way.
So when you're doing it in a strict press, you keeping that chest elevated. That's why keeping the chest elevated, keeping the eye gaze up. As that bar is going back, if you tell yourself bar back, you will move out of the bar's way. You will allow the bar to travel, back and then over your head. And then when you shrug up, right, and the traps are trapping the bar overhead, now the bar is behind you. So on day 1, all I want the person to know is where does the bar start? Under the chin. Where's the bar finish? Behind the ears. All right. If they can get into that point, I'm done. I've done my job. Now I may be able to introduce the hip movement, but I'm going to do it real slow in the beginning. I'm going to introduce the idea of, like you said, the trunk. The head and the hips is one segment, right? It moves. But what's actually happening in the body? You're shifting your weight to your toes. You're not leaning back. You're not shifting into your heels. If I lean backwards, I'm going to fall backwards.
There you go.
And the bar is going to take me. The bar's going to take me backwards. So how do I counter that? I counter that by moving my weight shifting my weight to my toes. It's a weight shift. So I'm still have my heels down, but my weight is forward, right? My weight is forward. And how am I holding myself in position? My abs are engaged and my glutes are squeezing, right? My hips, my glutes squeeze. We talk about squeezing the quads, keeping the legs locked. Well, squeezing the butt is going to keep everything in position. So as Rebecca was saying, just getting the hips out of the way, getting your head out of the way is just an idea of the body shifting, right? The weight shifts to the toes. You do lean back, but you're not falling back. Your weight's not in your heels. Now that's a tricky concept, but when I say weight to toes and the person gets that, usually it really does click with them, like what am actually happening. That's the hips moving forward. It's not just the hips separated from the rest of your body. It's the entire segment moving.
The hips just kind of floating.
The hips, I do that. People always laugh. I go, "You're not doing this," and I'll just kind of do like little hip thrusts with the hips. I'm like, that's not the hips forward. The hips forward is one position, the entire body, and that takes some time for the person to get, and that is a timing issue, right? It's understanding your body. Some understand their body better than others. Eventually, that bounce may come. In the beginning, I'm going to do it super slow just to kind of get the idea of like hips go forward, weight to toes, bar travels back, get under the bar. And that getting under the bar, wait for it. Let your head stay out of the way of the bar as long as possible before you need to get underneath of it, right? That's teaching the person how to use their body in space. If the body gets under the bar isn't put in position. And that's something tricky to teach. But I tell people it's practice. And it really is, because I watch people who struggle with the press in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, weeks later, months later, they've nailed it. They've nailed it. They've nailed it even better than I expected them to. Like something really clicked. They really have fine-tuned their setup, and they set up the same way every single time, and that makes a difference too. Which is why we're so anal about, you and I, and are describing this, so anal about setup. I will stop someone taking that bar out of the rack.
I prefer the word intentional.
I like anal. Actually, I prefer Nazi. I'm a Nazi when it comes to technique. No, but I mean that's how the person learns that setup is crucial, right? You don't just willy-nilly grab the bar. There's a specific way of approaching. I'm a dancer. There's a specific way of approaching a position, an exercise, a plie. I had my dance teacher in high school stop us before we could even get our arm to second position, in the beginning for a plie. Just doing a little, just reaching our arms out, he would stop us. If he didn't like the way that we moved our arm, we couldn't even get through the plies. The plies is the first thing you do in ballet class. It took us 20 minutes to get through plies because he didn't like the way we moved our arm. And we all had to move it the same way together. So I am very, very, if I don't like the setup, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to do it again.
I wouldn't have lasted like 5 minutes in that class.
Oh my God. I mean, we would start and he would go, and we'd begin again and the piano would start and he'd go, and we're like looking around like, who the fuck is doing this? Who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Like, get your shit together so we can move on to tendus because we haven't even gotten through plies yet, and it's already 10:15, right? So I let some things go, and then there's some things I'm like, I can't let go because if I'm going to teach the person, correctly, I want the setup to be correct. That will help ensure a good set.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, and it also, in addition to getting your body correctly positioned, it gets your mind in the right place too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I had two things I wanted to ask. One about the finished position, right? So the finished position, like Emily's saying, it's like, how did you say it? Like arms behind your ears, or I say like a lot of times biceps parallel to your ears, right? Yeah. Not touching your ears. No. But also, I mean, like a lot of times people who maybe they've done barbell work before, but I see this a lot of times with people who have done overhead press with dumbbells will stop with the bar. I mean, the bar over their head. Yeah. Their elbow is fully extended, but the bar is like 6 or 8 inches ahead of their shoulder. Sure. Like in front of their head, not above their head.
Yes.
Some people have range of motion issues and maybe they can't get their arm into that position. That's a different situation.
That's different. Yeah.
For people who have range of motion, I think that the thing that I'll call their attention to that sort of makes things click is if they have their arm, if they tend to stop with the arm in front of the face instead of directly over the head, right? Like the tactile cue that is used a lot of times is like you sort of press on their triceps, help them shrug up. But that whole idea of biceps by their ears. And once they get into that position, I'll ask them, do you feel what's happening right now in your upper back? And it's the difference between the upper back involvement at the correct finish position and what happens if you stop in front of your face instead of over your head is huge, right? Like before, if you stop in front of your face, you've got a lot of delt involved. If you stop with the bar directly over your head, if you get to that fully shrugged up, fully what is that? Extended position.
Yep.
Right? You're going to feel all of those muscles all around your shoulder blades, all your little rotator cuff sits muscles like activating and working really hard to stabilize the bar in that position. And that's some of the best work of the overhead press in terms of people's shoulder health.
Right.
And so that's the part that most often also unfortunately gets shortchanged among people who've got that range of motion, which is, why are you going to go to all the bother and not get the best benefits?
Yeah, I think people like to. They might rush. They want to rush through the set, so they won't fully finish because the bar's there. It's there enough, and they're trying to get through the set. But I'll say to them, shrug, get all the way under, and then when they have to get all the way under, it becomes a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit more work there, but it's going to ensure that that next weight that they go up to. Eventually that they try to do that with heavier weight, and the bar is just going to bring them forward, and then they wonder why they're on their toes. You don't want that bar to be too far in front of you. It's good. You're going to be off balance. Then that keeps you in balance. That's it allows you to get back into the middle of the foot and keep that bar in position. And as you said, shoulder health wise, it's a better position to be in. You don't want everything hanging on that bar, the weight's in front of you. Just like in the deadlift, you don't want that weight to drift off your legs. And now your low back is like, what the hell are you trying to do?
Yeah.
keep that bar close to me.
Yeah. Like in terms of the mechanical descriptions of it, right? If the bar is in front of you, you've got a moment arm. If it's in its correct finish position, then you're sort of lined up over your center of balance, right?
Yeah.
So basically plumb or perpendicular to the midfoot.
Exactly. I don't think we can go into detail with the whole bounce and using the hips and the bounce off the shoulders. That's really hard. But I think if you can think of when you're moving your hips forward, if you're doing the bounce, if you who are listening and you're like trying to figure out, I'm having a hard time, think about that weight to toes, right? Think about shifting the weight, shifting the body forward. If you've got a good position with that bar in front of you and the elbows forward, and you're working on the bounce, then the hips initiate it. The faster you move those hips forward, the more the bar will want to come down onto the shoulders, right? So the cue that we give is the hips bounce press. So if you're working on that bounce, letting the hips initiate it, but the hips have to be quick. What did Pete use?
Oh, he said like
violence.
I always do it like you mean it.
I say aggressive. I say we need an aggressive movement.
Hips like you mean it.
Yeah. I'll say fast hips.
Yeah.
I'll say fast hips, big bounce. Fast hips, big bounce. And I want the hips to go very quickly. I want you to shift your weight forward fast. I tell people as if someone had the drawstring on your pants and they yanked you forward, right? That kind of feeling, right? That kind of feeling of like yanking you forward, and you go forward because the person's yanked you very aggressively. That's the feeling that you want to have. It's a fast movement in order for that bar to respond. This is if you're doing the press. This is if you're doing the balance.
If you're doing the 2.0.
If you we've talked about strict pressing, we've talked about just letting people figure out how to move their hips and do it very slowly and do a kind of two-part series with the press. Once you've gotten that and you're comfortable and confident with that and you want to start to move those hips a little more quickly, these are some cues: fast hips, big bounce. I tell people to think of a bow and arrow, right? So as they're moving forward, they're creating a bow with their body, right? The hips, the weight's forward. They're kind of in this tight position here. The hips are engaging. There's a stretch reflex there going on with the hips. Then the arrow, instead of shooting forward, the bar shoots up, right? So there's that hips bounce press. It's that kind of like pull the bow back, shoot the arrow, and there goes the bar.
The bar shoots up if the chest is up.
Exactly.
If the chest is collapsed, the bar is going to go forward.
If you remain in position, you stay out of the bar's way and let that bar travel back. So that's the idea of, like, I'll tell people, stay with your weight forward longer than you want to. People don't like that feeling of staying forward in the hips. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel natural. But that's the only way that you're going to keep that bar going in its direction. People want to sneak under the bar, turtle under the bar, bobblehead under the bar. You do that, you drop your chin, you drop your eye gaze, your hips are going to move back. You've lost all that power now in your hips. Now it becomes all shoulders, and you're wondering why the bars slow down. Well, the bars also moved out of position too. So you want to keep that weight forward. You want to stay in that kind of arc with the body, and you can see the pictures in the book, as Rebecca was talking about, very nicely, right? Kind of clear. The new edition that came out had the kind of, shot by shot of the guy pressing, so much better than the other edition, right? There are more pictures to show that bar just getting past the head and he's still not moving. Then if it's even more past the head, he still hasn't moved out of position. He's still in position. That is essentially the press. The other pictures, you kind of missed that part. It's like he's forward and then he's over the head. So people automatically think that, okay, I'm just going to get under the bar like that. No, stay in position longer than you feel like you want to. Use your glutes to hang in position. Use your abs to stay in position. It doesn't feel comfortable, but I guarantee you're going to get a lot more leg drive, right? I use leg drive the way I use it in the bench. You're going to get a lot more leg drive and a lot more power from those legs, because the minute you try to get underneath too soon, you lose it all. And it happens all the time with my clients. And the minute they remember to stay in position, it's so much easier. The bar moves faster, and they kind of go, yeah, you're right. I'm like, I know, I'm right. It's okay. No. But it's just, we don't want to do things that feel weird. We don't want to do things that feel uncomfortable, and that's uncomfortable to kind of hang there and stay there, kind of in that position. So that's if you're using the hips. That's prettle much all I have to say with the press.
Yeah, no,
what else we want to add to that?
Well, the other thing is
we didn't talk about breath. I know.
Oh no, geez, that's a whole other conversation. No, I was going to say, because we were talking about like just cues, like in terms of bar path, right? Like because if the bar, like you're describing the bar getting ahead of you, or
getting away from you,
too far ahead of the person, right? So we kind of didn't really talk about that.
Yeah.
Like it's about, I always say, like, aim for your face, aim for your nose, aim for your eyebrows.
Yep.
I've recently heard Sully was saying, like, think of your face as a ramp, right? Like your face is a ramp that the bar is just going to go right up it.
Yeah.
So anything that sort of gets you thinking about aiming the bar back in that direction.
Yeah. There's the cue I give, and I mentioned this earlier, before we started recording. Baseball cap. You've got a baseball cap on, and it's turned front ways, so you've got the lip of the cap.
Yeah.
Knock the cap off your head, which is interesting because one of my guys was pressing, and he had a baseball cap on, and I watched him press. I watched him warming up, and then I watched him do his top set, and the bar, because he had that cap on, he actually instinctively didn't want that bar to knock his hat off, so he kept it in front of him the whole time, which made it harder. And he finished the set, and I said, "Why'd you keep the hat on?" He's like, "Oh," I said, "You should have knocked that thing off the minute that first rep went up. If you had knocked it off, you would have known you had kept the bar close to you." But he was actually trying to not touch his hat because he knew he had the hat on. He goes, "You're right." He took it off for his back offs.
Flip it around.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had one of my clients who wears a hat. He just flips it around because he knows he's gonna knock it off. You want that. You want to knock the cap off. If you're trying to avoid your cap and you're wearing a baseball cap, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're making it harder for yourself. So you want to keep that bar as close to you as possible. Now, that's okay if you're doing the lay back. If you end up kind of leaning really, if you have a very flexible back, like I do, like some of my clients do, where they actually, the lay back is part of their press. If the bar is still traveling backwards, that's fine. It's when you are back and the bar is forward and you have pushed yourself away from the bar. We don't want that. We don't want you to push yourself away from the bar. We want the bar to come back towards you, and you may end up leaning a little bit more, back than someone else. But that's okay. We're all individual in that respect. And I don't teach the layback. That's not something that you can be teach.
Just do it.
People just do it. They either do it or they don't do it. Some of the guys and women find that they have more flexibility than they thought they did. And they realize, oh, actually, I can use this to my advantage. Now, you have to make sure that, if you feel anything in your low back, you're squeezing your butt as hard as you can. Anytime anybody feels something in their low back, I tell them, tighter butt. And the minute they squeeze their butt, the back pain goes away, right? I mean, you don't want to bend your low back. We're not doing that. You want to think about the whole trunk, and especially you want to keep those abs on. Yeah. You want that nice tight trunk position that you have in the squat, right? 2x4, up the back, up the front. The whole thing has to remain tight. The
hip is the moving joint,
exactly,
not the low
back. Not the low back. There's no joint in your waist.
Solid segment.
No joint. So you don't want to bend. You're not bending from your low back. That's not the press. That's not the press movement. The whole truck, as Rebecca said, it moves from the hips. Diego has a great article on this, on the press, on where the weight shift is, on the bar path. I'm going to link it in our notes section. It's on the Starting Strength website. So you don't have to worry about searching for it. The link will be there. It's a great article. I think it'll make a lot of sense for those of you who might still be having kind of, I'm not quite, I still don't quite have the press. We spent an hour and a half, I think, on Facebook Live in 2020, Diego and I, going over just the press. Like, there's so many little details with it that people miss and don't get, because it is in a sense, it's a great lift, right? I love the press, but it is one of the lifts that is so temperamental with bar path.
Yeah.
So temperamental. You can it's almost like the bench you can get away with, squat you can get away with, deadlift, to a point, but the press, man,
not very forgiving.
It's not very forgiving at all. And it kind of sometimes can be a little frustrating for many people. And Diego doesn't even press anymore, right? He Viking presses. It just bothers his elbows or something, or shoulders. I can't remember what bothers him, but he finds he gets much more out of the Viking press. And that's a lift, an alternative lift that we'll use with many of our clients who don't have that flexibility or mobility in their upper back and their shoulders. The Viking press is fantastic. It's basically like, it's a 2-arm landmine press. It's an implement that sits in the landmine, and you can adjust the landmine. So you can do it seated or you can do it standing, and you can do 2 arms. You can do a neutral grip, or you can do a regular, pronated grip. It's a fantastic lift and a fantastic alternative to the barbell press. So we've got quite a few people who use that either as their lift or as a variation to just, do some extra pressing. And not a lot of technique involved with that either, which is great. So it's easier to teach somebody.
Yeah, easier
and you get a lot of benefit from it. I love that. I do it seated. So that's
And I think the only other thing that I would add about press for anybody listening, especially if they're just getting started, that's going to be your first lift to need modification.
Sure.
Right. So, and sometimes I've worked with people who have watched some of the Starting Strength media and have expectations about what their press is going to be, because the press is something that Starting Strength, I think, really has popularized, right? So, these strength lifting meets where it's the press, it's not the bench.
Right.
And so you get some people in Starting Strength with some phenomenal overhead presses, and some information circulating out there. I had one client who told me, I think he Honestly, I can't remember if he said 135 or 175 was when he expected his press to start to break down, right? And this is a guy who's like been pretty sedentary up until he started lifting weights. Primarily working at a computer, so kind of had that, like, we're talking shrimp back. So these goals for him at that point in his life were outrageous.
Yeah.
To think that he was going to get really to 135 or 175. He was, not, a little bit older than I am, I think. But it was sort of, okay, maybe you're going to get there at some point, but not right out of the gates. And that's not where your press is going to start to need modification. So there's some ideas about that are maybe outside of the realm of attainable for a lot of people. But just know that that's going to be the first one that needs modification. It's just like every other lift. The more you press, the better your press will become.
That's it.
The more more volume you add, the more number of days that you're able to press, the bigger your press will become. It doesn't just happen magically.
That's it. It's true. I think people you're right, they have a number in their mind, and some people are just better pressers than others. It's the first lift. It doesn't use as much muscle mass, nearly as much as the other lifts. Obviously, it's, your shoulders, you have much less in your upper body. Bench, you have a bench that you get to lie on and use, and you're using more muscle mass there than you are with the press. So it's going to be the first one that's probably going to need to
crap out on you.
Yeah, you're going to probably start jumping 2.5 pounds. You're going to start moving to fours or triples, even for the guys too. It's going to require a lot more of you, and it's going to require one of those, every now and then learning how to grind and stick through a press, because we can easily give up on a press. And I find that people who learn to stick with the press, they don't grind all the time. They do one grind. They realize, I can do this. I can get that weight overhead as long as I stay in that position like I just did. And then they can, then they'll know when they have it and when they don't, but they don't give up on it to a point. There's some people who I'm like, the bar is like tilting to one side, and I'm like, okay, that's enough. We don't want ugly presses here. But it is a very individual, movement, and some people get better, have it better than others. And as you said, pressing requires pressing. You have to press. You could press every day if you wanted to. You actually could. If you want to get better at anything, depending on what the lift is, you probably just need to do more of it. And the press is one of those lifts. We didn't talk about breathing, but we can always come back to that and talk about that.
That's because you don't breathe when you press.
Basically,
I know.
With all movement, I say this: if the bar is moving, you're not breathing. That's it. The bar is moving, you're not breathing. Figure out the breath. What works best for you at the top, at the bottom. Hold your breath when the bar is moving. Don't let your air out when the bar is not. When the bar is moving, that's it. There's the breath. There you go. And that's coaching. If you guys have any questions about anything that we've talked about in any of the 4-part discussions on the big lifts, please let us know. We'll be off for the month of July. We'll be back in August. And if you've got topics that you'd like to hear more about, or we've done a topic before and you'd like to maybe a little bit more discussion on it, you can let us know. You can always email me at emily@5by3.com. And of course, you can always email Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
And there you go. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great July. Enjoy your summer, and we will be back in August. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See you later. Take care.
Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.